Well, just as much as this day's about to close, the whole Battle of Armageddon was about to close. We're on the last push now. From Tiberias, the guys came north. They came to here. This is where the Jordan River has to be crossed before making your way up the Damascus road to Damascus. When they came down into this valley, it's called the Bridge of Jacob's Daughters. And behind me you can make out a bridge that was, it's been destroyed over and over and over because this is such a strategic military position. Looking around me right now here, it says danger, landmines. There's wreckage from previous wars in the 70s where many Israelis have died here. But back in September 1918, our troops came to the other side there, came up from Galilee, and when they got to the other side, behind me here, right across this high ground, were numbers of machine gun posts. These were mostly Germans, the rear guard protecting the army to try and slow down our guys. And they did. So through the night, guys went north to try and find ways of crossing the Jordan. You can see down in here, the Jordan's quite flowing and quite deep. And they went south to try and cross the Jordan. And they were really holed up for a while. Some guys, I think from the 10th, crossed a fair up north, and as they made their way in the pitch dark of night down this way, they stumbled across a small garrison of Turks. Apparently they were drunk as skunks. By now, the Turks and the Germans were completely demoralised. They were in a state where really the war was over for them and they knew it. And this is exactly the same as the situation just a number of kilometres in that direction over in Jordan, where they were marching northward to try and reach Damascus ahead of the guys from here. Now the triangle was closing and the race for Damascus was in its last days. From this lookout, you're actually looking over the Israeli-Syrian border. This is called the Golan Heights, and this is one of the areas where in 1967, the Six-Day War brought Israeli tanks and troops to liberate this part of the land. In the distance there, you can see the Syrian town of Quneitra. I had to laugh when I read a quote from a trooper who was one of the first to enter the town. There was no opposition at all. In fact, there were so many white flags hanging up everywhere. He wrote, "The town looked like a Chinese laundry on Monday." So this is where we leave Israel to continue our pursuit of the Anzacs on a very famous highway, the road to Damascus. So we've come up from Quneitra now and heading close to Damascus. I can see Damascus and the mountain above Damascus, about 16 kilometres in that direction. And there'd been a pattern formed now. The German machine gunners were kind of doing a rearguard action all the way up the road, all the way to here. They were on the mountain behind me here, this low mountain across the valley, and they were going to put up their last stand before Damascus. And so they were lined up. They had no trenches, but they were lined up on the hill behind us there. And the Aussies came to the hill that I'm on right now. And you'll never guess this, but it was the 4th Brigade who were called to do this again. The same brigade as Beersheba, and it turned out to be the 12th and the 4th Regiment. So this was almost a reenactment of Beersheba. They lined up just behind this hill, and at the signal, they took off and went down through the valley over the ravines onto the other side. Now by now they'd been trained in the work of the sword, and so they had their swords out. So it was actually, you could say, a serious, real Australian cavalry charge. But here's the unbelievable part of this story, is not a shot was fired. The Germans and the Turks by now were totally demoralised. As soon as they saw the mad Aussies coming down at them with the sword, they dropped their weapons, put up their hands. I might add that round the corner on this side here, the French cavalry had also come around the back, so these guys were finished.
It was a full cavalry charge in every sense. They didn't really get to put the swords home, to use the sort of terminology from the time. That was mostly because the Turks and the Germans gave up as they came to the objective. But it was mostly because of the work of the gunners, again, of the Royal Horse Artillery, who put the fire in and kept the heads down, and the Australians were able to get right on top of the position. At that point, they gave up the ghost.
But I might also mention the road that's somewhere around here right now. We're on the Damascus Road. We're just before Damascus, and I am right now standing on the site of a church, a monastery, at the position where St. Paul was knocked off his horse and converted, turned blind and converted. Isn't it ironic? At the place where St. Paul falls off his horse and hears a vision from God, our guys stay on their horses and make their way right through here.